Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert Podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right. Welcome back to the Dirt and Vert Podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have Kyle Kraeft with us today. I don't know Kyle that well. We've been friends on Facebook and Strava for a while, but I finally got to see Kyle in action at Cruel Jewel, and he was absolutely just destroying the course. And it was really fun to watch. But I will say that Kyle has a very epic ending to the Cruel Jewel that we'll get into later. I actually told him it's the most epic one I've ever seen. I won't let that cat out of the bag just yet. But Kyle, before we jump into all of that, why don't you tell us about who you are and how you got into running?
Yeah. So 36, live in Tallahassee, Florida, married with my wife Erin for 11 years now. And I'm actually originally from Anchorage, Alaska, and moved down here 20 years ago now. And so, yeah, like I think the growing up fishing and being on the trails and outdoors out in Alaska was really like my early years were very formative. And like about 8+ years now, I kind of was like trying to get healthy after being married, and I ended up doing some like trail running on trails near my house, and ended up kind of enjoying just like having moments where I like was uncomfortable, but then like got more comfortable and was like sending it on some trails and was like kind of fun. And then I made the mistake of like somehow stumbling on some YouTube videos and stuff of ultra running, and it was game over. And so I ended up like running some trail races locally, and then did a 50K. Got 2008, I think, so about 7 years ago, my first 50K, maybe 19. And then, yeah, from there, it's just been like a consistent, progressive going into it, just enjoying like the sport itself, the racing side of it, and then just the community, and, just loving being out there, seeing all the people that I've gotten to know more in the Southeast and stuff, and just like a whole party.
So, Kyle, what was the first ultra that you decided to do when you started exploring this whole new land of running?
Yeah. So the Hullabaloo PK in Brevard, North Carolina, they don't do it anymore. And it was a really fun race. It was like pretty gentle as far as the terrain goes, but with just enough like single track and vert to make it like feel challenging, because it was like 10-mile loops. And at the end there was like food trucks, and they gave you some like beers, and the culture was like super fun. They had music playing and stuff. So it's sad they don't put it on anymore. It was a super like perfect introduction to ultra running, where I was like, oh man, I really like this.
Blue.
I've never even heard
Never
of that
heard-
one. Do they
never
still
heard
do
of
that?
No, yeah.
That's awful. Looks like it was in North Carolina. Was it a pretty hilly 50K?
Yeah, it was. Now looking back on it, it was kind of mild, but it felt like it then. It was like maybe 3,000-4,000 feet of vert.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing. Those first ones always feel way worse.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, this is the worst thing ever, and then you go back and you look and you're like, that probably really wasn't that bad. But what was a takeaway from your very first 50K? Like,
Oof.
how did that go, and like, what did you learn?
I think one of the things that was cool about it was I had trained decently well, though I was trying to stick to. I didn't realize I was doing a 50-miler like training plan until like after the fact, and I kind of blew myself up in training like going into it, because I was trying to hold to it, and I was like, man, I didn't keep to this thing enough. Like I almost got hurt. And then going out and running the race, I did like really well, and I finished stronger than a lot of people that I'd like started the race with. And so I walked away going like, I'm not like half bad at this, and like I did pretty well. And you know, it was kind of like an encouragement of like, hey, I can do okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, that's what's kind of cool is your very first 50K, you were top 10. And,
Yeah.
you know, what was your longest distance up to that point?
Dude, I remember. Okay, so I've known Ryan Kuntz, and I listened to y'all's pod with Shannon, and she did a shout out to Ryan. So me and Ryan have known each other since basically since I started running, and I met him at like a local trail race, and he kind of egged me on to get into ultras and stuff too. But we did like a 20-mile run together, in that training block. And I think it was like the second time I'd ever run 20 miles. And he's just chatting away, like as we're running. He had done 100-milers and stuff up to that point. And by the end of it, I was so nauseous and sick that like we sat down at this picnic table and I was just like holding my face in my hands and like trying not to throw up. And like he was just talking to me like nothing was, and I'm like, dude, like I'm wrecked, bro. Like that just like killed me. So yeah, I mean, even just that close to the 50K, running 20 miles was like punishing, for me back then. So I was still very fresh, into it. And I think I got up to like, you know, I might have run a marathon in my training one day just to be able to like say I did it or whatever. But yeah, I mean, besides that, I mean that was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing what you learn in those first two long distances, like a 50K, and then your first or usually your first 50K or whatever, and your first 100-miler. There's usually a lot to learn and unpack in those two.
But yeah.
But it obviously didn't discourage you any, because looks like you have ran a lot since that very first 50K. What do you think? Like your first year or two of ultra running, was there a race that really wrecked you? Or was it the first one?
No, actually, the first one wasn't as bad as the next two, which I think if you're looking at, I did Table Rock and Cloudland Canyon. Both of those turned into absolute horrific blow-ups and death marches where I was just like, I didn't know I could hurt this bad kind of thing, like why am I out here? Like just the worst kind of like blow up.
To hear you say that makes me so excited to get to Joel later in this conversation, because if you blew up back then, you've got that tolerance built up, like you know what to expect. I saw pictures at Cruel Jewel. So when we get there, I mean, this like sets the whole new bar for me. I can't wait to hear this. But yeah, so do you think Cloudland Canyon was the one that really wrecked you, or was it Table Rock?
Table Rock. So I think I got a little overconfident after the first one went decent. Table Rock, I went out really fast thinking that I was going to win, and even thinking, oh, the course record's not that fast. Like, I'm going to go out there and like do something. And then I realized why the course record was where it was. And like I remember going up, like you start Table Rock and you go up to Table Rock Mountain, and so the first like half marathon is just like getting up there and then climbing. And I remember getting up like where the climb was over 20% grade, and I was starting to have to hike, and I'm like, oh man, like this is like like I'm redlining, my legs are burning, like this is not good. And then coming back down, by the time I got back down from that climb, I was like, I'm done, and I'm like not even halfway. Like what do I do now? So I think that one was the most shocking, blow up. So
that is the worst feeling. Like when the very first time you experience like, I'm halfway through this race, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Like, oh, what am I going to do?
Yep.
That's a terrible feeling.
That's exactly how my first true 50K went. Got to blazing, and then you get to a point you're like, I don't know what to do. I'm just walking, and then you walk forever.
Yeah.
It's a death march.
Yeah. It's a death march.
That is a very humbling experience. And, I think
yeah,
everyone, for the most part, experiences that at some point.
Yeah. And it's super valuable.
Later.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It truly is, because until you hit that, you truly don't understand the art of pacing.
And you still might not.
That's a valid point.
I'm guilty of that.
So I see that you stepped up your game. We started, let's see here. We're starting in 2019. That was the first 50K you did. And now we're up to 2021. And I see you did your first 100K in Utah. So let's hear this. How was the first 100K experience?
I feel like we're going to discover something. I don't know if I've ever just walked through all my races like this. That there's a through line here that's not good. No, it was pretty. It was a great start to a race, and you start at like 3 a.m. Beautiful Utah. We had been there. I'd acclimated and stuff like that to elevation, and I remember the first 10 miles was like a couple thousand feet climb just up this like service road, and then I somehow made a wrong turn following a flag that was not part of the race and bombed down the single track mountain out into the abyss of nowhere in Utah and had no idea what was happening. And like I stopped and I just like started panicking and praying because I didn't think I could find my way back. And I was like, I'm just gonna die out here. Like it's like the middle of the night. I have no idea where I'm at right now. And luckily, like I saw some headlamps through the woods, and I guess I had bombed down the mountain and like circled back to the road that we were running on. And I was like, "What mile are you guys on?" And they were like, told me, mile 8, and I'm like, oh, geez, like I should be at mile like 11 or 12. And they were like, dude, just hop back on the road. You just got to do it again. And I'm like, oh, I had to like climb back up, but the race went from like that kind of start, and then we crested the top of the mountain during the race, and at like the marathon mark. And I think that by the 50K mark, I was basically trashed. It warmed up. I was so nauseous. I couldn't eat anything. I met this guy, Billy, who like walked with me and was like the most encouraging person in the world and was just like, I don't know, he was like an angel or something. And he still like will comment on all my Stravas. Like I only met him that one time and he's just like, great work, bro. And I'm like, dude, who is this guy? Like, but yeah, dude, I death marched literally the last 20 miles of that race and it was awful. Gosh, I didn't bring any wipes with me. I chafed so bad. All right, this. Are we allowed to be like graphic here? All right, this is Ultra Running Podcast, right?
This is the good stuff.
Yeah. So I didn't have wipes with me. I think at mile like 50, I had to go to the bathroom again. Didn't have anything to wipe with. Tried to use some leaves or whatever. My butt cheeks were so chafed. I literally, from the last 12 miles of death marching, I basically had to hold my butt cheeks apart from each other and like walk, like holding my butt because it just hurt so bad. And it was hot too, like it's hot that day. And I was just like, this is horrible. Like, I don't know why I'm out here doing this. So that was that race.
Learned a valuable lesson right there. Wow.
Dude.
I've heard some chafing stories. That's a good one. That's a good one. So how many miles did you walk holding your butt cheeks?
A good bit. It was a while.
So
like a few miles, yeah.
If you saw a runner, did you let go or did you just no shame keep holding?
When I actually went to the bathroom, I was so tanked at that time. Like, and I'm still like this nowadays where, like, okay, are you ready? At this Cruel Jewel, we haven't gotten there yet. Guess who went on the side of the road during the road section and was like, if a car passes, dude, indecent exposure is happening right now. Like, they're going to see it all. And I'm just like, at least I just go faster now because I've got everything's faster, right? So I'm like, I was able to clock a 8:30 mile, even dropping like on the side of the road real quick. So I'm like, I'm pretty efficient now and I have wipes, but dude, it's just like, it's like you can try to like avoid being indecent but it's like at some point you just don't care anymore, and it's like you get in a different mode where I'm like, I don't care. Like I'm here to get this thing done.
It's that is efficiency right there. I mean, if you can do that and run an 8.5 minute mile fast, you feel good. But those are hard lessons learned.
Man. Yeah.
I know a guy that chafed really bad in a 100 miler, and he was chafing on the front side, not the back. So he took his headband off and wrapped it around and went another 20 miles like that to finish the race. So
Dude, that was like
know your pain.
yeah, Kip, a guy named Kip in Alabama. He always does Pinhoti, and he's run Pinhoti. I think he's close to at least 10 times or something. And the I think 2 years ago or something, I had dropped, and we'll get to that one, I guess. In mile 95, he came in. He had like stuffed his whole shirt down.
I met him at Pinhoti this last year because he was telling me it was going to be like his 10th finish or something.
Yeah. Dude, Kip, that guy's a character.
So that one was the Katsina Mosa?
Yeah,
Is that
Kachina.
Kachina?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm glad we hit on that one. That was a good story.
Dude.
Now we're gonna run up to your very first, skip a few races here, but your very first GDR experience.
Oh.
2022. So all this valuable information you've learned now, and your butt cheeks chafing. How does GDR?
Dude, like literally the same in a lot of ways. It was a horrible death march. I should have sent you guys the picture of my finish. It's on my Instagram, but I have this pathetic picture of me at the finish line where I just look like somebody had just abused me, and because they did. It was GDR, and dude, yeah, like that's still probably one of the most wrecked I've ever been from a race, and like my quads were more blown out than they ever have been. So I had to dig so deep just to finish, and it took like a new level of grit. And I was proud of myself, and I didn't care that like 20 people passed me at the end because I was like, man, like it's a really big deal. Nobody knows how hard that just was for me. And I just like gutted it out at the end, and just like even death marching was hard at the end of that one. So yeah,
I'm getting a recurring theme here.
yeah. It gets better or worse.
Okay, so now I want to hear we're jumping into, and I will say, so let's take a step back. So you did Kachina Mosa, and then that's 2021, and up until that point you've had some okay finishes. You've gotten a couple of podiums, but after that race your results start changing, which means obviously your body's probably getting some adaptation to these longer miles, and you probably learned fueling a little better and obviously chafing a little better. But you can see that switch kind of flip because now you're starting to get podiums as we set up, go up this list. But let's talk about, you do the Rebecca Mountain 50 mile and you get second place in that one. And then you turn around and you do Pinhoti 100 and get fourth place in that one. Now that is your first official 100-mile race at this point, right?
No, I dropped the year before.
So we skipped that then. Yeah, it's down here. I see it. So let's talk about Pinhoti and Rebecca Mountain, but also what happened in the first Pinhoti where you dropped.
Yeah. So a lot of the different races are too like the all the lessons that I'm learning, like you just said, like the fueling and hydration has been a big one. And yeah, going to Pinhoti, I did really well for a long time there. And each race, I mean, I'm getting, even though I'm still failing in a lot of ways, I'm getting a lot stronger, faster, more resilient and stuff like that. And I'm just doing harder races too. So as I progress. And that first time at Pinhoti, it was warm that year, and my electrolytes and hydration got way off, and I got in my head about it, and around mile 60 something, just had a low moment where everything was going wrong and my phone was about to die, my watch was about to die. I was stumbling around on the trail and I started like panicking a little bit about it and ended up just calling my wife. And then it was like one of those things where my first DNF and I ended up immediately regretting it and feeling like I could, if I would have just chilled for like 20 minutes at an aid station, that I probably would have been able to get back up and keep going. But I think I just didn't have the category in my mind, of that being like a reality. And so learning how to adjust and be like, all right, expectations got to change. Not having the race that we planned here, and now you got to adjust, and in the moment. And so it like really bothered me. I ended up I dropped that year. The springtime, I was going to go do Lake Martin 100 as my redemption 100. Fractured my hip, got a stress fracture from basically overtraining, and so I had to sit out the spring, and then Pinhoti the second year was my return, and I was like, I am going to finish this race, even if like I have like bone hanging out, and like you know what I mean. Like there's nothing that's going to stop me from finishing this race right now. I was like I had such a chip on my shoulder about it, and so it was a really cool experience, just the kind of commitment and like doggedness, I guess, or whatever, of like I'm here to do this thing. And yeah, the Rebecca Mountain lead up to it, I actually was in the lead. Me and Corey Waltering were battling really early on, and he ended up dropping at mile 25, and I blew up really bad with like puking at the aid stations and stuff. And then finally, the second place guy caught me. I was trying to go for like a fast time there, but yeah, that led up to that. The Pinhoti, I ran really smart. I did everything right. I had everything dialed in, much better than I had before. Still got super nauseous, like mile 50. I was starting to feel cruddy, and it was just not an option for me to like. Nothing was going to stop, so I just kept rolling through it. I kept eating, kept doing all the right things, and I think that was one of the best of the longer races that I actually ran. One of my like process goals going into that was I want to get to the runnable section at the end and actually run it, even if I'm feeling like terrible. I just want to be running, and so I did. I wasn't fast, in a lot of ways, and I was in second place at that time and got passed by two guys, um, you know, closer to the end in the last like 12 miles, and even got passed by another guy and I had to find something in myself. I got passed at mile 95 and got knocked out of fourth into fifth. And I was like, no, like I was at the aid station. My wife, I was just like chugging a Red Bull real quick. And I was like, no, I'm not going to let somebody else pass me right now. And I was just like, I'm just going to hang on. I'm just going to like run behind this guy. And I don't have anything left right now, but I'm just going to like stick with him and we'll just see what happens. And dude, out of nowhere, like I just had this wild hair and I was just like, I'm just going to do literally everything that I have within me right now to run as hard as I can and try to pass this guy and break his spirit to like try to fight me. And I did. And it was one of the most magical things, dude. Like I was so proud of that. Because it's one thing to just finish a race when you're dead, but to like actually still fight to compete takes a whole different level of like mental fortitude. Because you can still kind of give up in death march.
Yeah, it definitely is it's definitely a lot of mindset there in the end, because especially in a 100-miler, you just want to walk. Like you get 90,
Yeah.
you can run all the way to mile 90 and then you're just like, oh, I'm going to walk. But
Just
really,
done.
it's
Yeah.
you can run. You got to be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
And like that was a huge, like a huge notch for you to set that level, to know that there is something in there even when you don't think there is. And that's huge.
Totally.
But also, I love what you said. It's actually tattooed on my arm. But basically, like you're failing until you don't. And that's one of the things. It's like, I don't ever look at anybody's ultra sign up and be like, oh, they DNF this. Oh, they DNF this. There's always a story. If you look at people's results, you can see like when things happen and when things change and when they starting to figure it out. And to me, that's what's so fun, is like to see when someone's like, right here and then here. And it's like, yeah, the hardest thing you will ever do is show up to the start line. From there, it's a learning experience. And, you know, you're basically just failing until you don't and trying to figure it out. And like, I can see where things started clicking for you and you started to figure it out, which is just truly cool to see and watch.
Mm. Yeah, totally.
Let's take a look now. Your very first, jump on up here. To your very first, I'm assuming, let me make sure there's not a DNF here. Nope, we're good. Your very first Cruel Jewel.
Yeah.
So that's 2024, right?
Yeah, last year.
So 30 hours, 37 minutes. You were 27th overall. How was that one? Now, Cruel Jewel 100, for anybody that doesn't know, it is a very hard 100 miler. Yeah. It has over 30,000 feet of elevation gain. The weather is all over the place because it's in May. It can be super hot and then turn into a 40-degree night with a windstorm, thunderstorm, whatever. So it's not, you know, it's not an easy race. So 30 hours is actually a very respectable time on Cruel Jewel. And that was your first like true run at this race. So how was that experience? And then we'll jump into 2025 here in a minute.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's too grandiose to say that I think I had a faster, for sure had a faster time in me, but I was on pace even until 60 miles, 60, 70 for more of a 25, 26 hour finish. And it was weird though, like I had trained, my training block was so good. And like most of my friends and the people, you know, around were like thinking that I was going to win, partially because I didn't know Ben Quattromoni was going to be there, who was just a stud. You know, nobody expected that. But yeah, besides him, I mean, I was well within the realm of possibility for me to compete with everybody after Ben, you know. And yeah, just I felt weird from the start of the race. Like something was not good. Like I remember getting to the aid stations, just kind of feeling flat, kind of like having a hard time like being happy and engaged. And I felt just like something with my energy and stuff like that was just off. And so I was like, it's fine. I've been through this. We're just gonna keep rolling. Things will turn around. They always do. And I just kept doing that, and it just like got worse. I ended up like being so dead toward the end that like I was just reduced down to for nothing, and walking and stuff like that. And then I still would have probably finished in like maybe 28 hours or something, even if I would have just death marched at the end. But something happened to my foot after Stanley around like mile 85, 90. Maybe it was going down into Weaver, like at the pointless turnaround, or pointless out and back. And my foot started swelling up. And after a while, it got so bad to where I was like hobbling on it, and I thought something was like hurt in it. And my Ryan was pacing me then, and he's like, "Dude, your shoe's probably just too tight. Like, loosen up your shoe." And I'm like, "Whatever, dude. That's dumb. Like, it's not just because my shoe's too tight. Like, get out of here." And but I loosened it up, and it like swelled up even more. Swelled up even more to the point where like I thought it was broke at the end, and I couldn't hardly walk on it, you know. And so like there's a picture of me on the at the finish line getting carried off. Once I finished, my foot was so swollen that I couldn't fit it in my croc afterwards, just like a balloon. And I nothing was wrong with it. Like it healed up fine, and within a week or two, I was like back running again. I think it literally was just my shoe too tight, and like somehow it just made it swell up. And so it was just a fiasco. That was, to date, that was the hardest finish I'd ever had. It just gutted me to finish that race. And I said I was never going to go back. And then my wife afterwards, she was like, I said I'm never going to do 100 again. I was like, I'm just not going to be successful in this. Like, I'm just not, I'm done with these things. And she was like, are you sure that's how you want to leave it? And I'm like, well, when you say that, you know, like obviously not, you know. But I didn't plan on going back this year. That was literally 2 weeks or a week and a half before the race this year is when I decided I was going to go back. Just totally random. Like, you know what? I'm not trained specifically totally for this as much as I would be. I'm just going to do it, you know? So,
Wow. I didn't realize that. That adds even more to that story of like, that's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how you can have a day where nothing really feels right. Like you just can't get the energy that you normally have. Well, I mean, we've all kind of had that feeling, and it makes for a really hard day, just a long day.
Yep.
Like in all reality, you probably get close to the same time, but it just feels like it takes twice the effort to do it.
Yeah, totally.
So when you cross that finish line, obviously earned that huge belt buckle that's about the size of a dinner plate at Thanksgiving. What inspired you to come back this year?
I honestly, I think it's just the sort of conquering the monster that like haunts me kind of thing. It's like, you know what? Like, I'm not afraid of this, and I might not even be as prepared, but even just my relationship to ultra running in general nowadays is like, man, like I'm not going to be able to do this forever. Probably not going to ever be like the elite level. I want a relationship to ultra running that's healthy and good, that's meaningful, that I'm not just, I don't know. It's a weird kind of just like this weird emotional thing with me and relating to ultra running in general, I think was part of it. Where it's just like, you know what? Like what's the hardest thing I could possibly do right now? I just want to go do that. And just like I want to go get gutted again and go and like die and resurrect and like find myself, and have a spiritual experience. I don't know. There was something about that I think I was attracted to the sort of wild, untamed reality of what ultra running is, and how I think I get tangled up sometimes with obsessing over trying to perform. And it kind of just subverted that for me just to sign up last minute and just go out there and just like have a day and just say, you know what, man, like whatever happens, I don't even care. Like I'm okay dropping if I need to. I want to go have fun with all the people. I want to enjoy being out on the trail and not be obsessively thinking about my time and racing and all the pressure that I put on myself. And I just want to go out there and like enjoy doing like what I love doing. And so yeah, I just signed up.
Well, I love that. So
Yeah.
when you went into the race this year, you look like you were on a mission. And was that mission trying to break the course record or to just win the race, or what was your goal? Because you were definitely on a mission.
Yeah, I think if I was to like sort of describe the sort of the way that I was oriented as far as the focus goes was I wanted to conquer the course itself as a course that is just so unconquerable no matter who you are. Every person, like I even look back at Ben Quattromoni's times, and I mean like at the end he had fallen off, even setting the course record, and was obviously like struggling toward the end just to hang on for dear life. And I'm just like, no man, like I just want to run like a good race. And so part of my focus was keeping myself in check and like wanting just to do all the right things. And then also the mindset of just like I'm just going to enjoy being present, have fun with all the people, and just cruise at a pace that is honest for me, and sort of let the chips fall where they fall kind of thing. And so I was trying to avoid the trap of like thinking of a finishing time or something like that. Once I got to the Wolf Creek turnaround and I was under 10 hours, I was like, well, I'm not doing too bad, especially for a hot day. I definitely am on pace for like a 24-hour finish, which is kind of what the goal that I thought was like a good A goal or something for me. So that was kind of the goal as far as like a time goes, and I stayed on it until I think I started really slowing down and struggling somewhere in between Skeena and Old Dial is when things kind of started like, okay, now we're moving into the 25 range. And then even right before I dropped, I was still like, I could, if I really pushed myself right now, I could maybe squeeze under 26. And that was like doing the Flat Creek loop at the end. I still was kind of on pace for like right around 26 or just under.
Wow. So what happened in those last 3-4 miles? Like
Yeah.
what section did you actually stop at? Like, I know you were over 100 miles. So for everybody that's listening, I told Kyle this yesterday, or it might have been this morning, I can't remember, but he has the most epic DNF ever.
Yeah.
For someone to run 100+ miles in a 100-mile race, I give you, and get a DNF. And when you got the DNF, were you still leading?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
but I got passed before I officially dropped.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was
Let's-
leading when I
Let's hear this story when you cross mile 100. What happened? Like, let's hear it.
So the saga. So I was struggling. I was hanging on, slowing down, like taking a little longer at aid stations leading up to it. So at Stanley, like I had to really I had to get myself out of the chair and not spend any more time there, and just like, all right, I'm not going to feel any better. It's time to go right now. And so I went, and I remember going down into Weaver and just being like, man, like I feel so terrible right now. Like this is awful. My stomach was bad. My legs were hurting. I was having a hard time. I was like trying to force myself to run a little bit, but I was definitely not running hard, and everything was just kind of falling apart. And I got down to Weaver, tried to cool down a little bit, but just struggling. And then coming out of Weaver, I looked at my watch when I was at the aid station. I was like, all right, I'm gonna time this right now and see when I pass second place, because I'm still trying to hang on to the lead right now, and see how far the gap is, and I'm gonna just try to hang on to it, And so I thought it was gonna be Shannon, and so I'm coming out. I was like 2:15 when I looked at my watch. I think I saw the second place guy, Matt. Yeah, Matt Pruitt, and he had a pacer, his wife Sam, who they were really sweet, and he was looking so strong. I passed him at 2:45 climbing out, which meant I had maybe an hour lead coming out of there. But he looked so strong, and I think I did the math in my head wrong, and I was like, no, it's 30 minutes, and it's like, no, it's 30 minutes. That I've climbed out of here, but he still has to go down and then back out. And so I was doing ultra math in my head, and but he looked so good, and I was just like, he's gonna catch me. Like I have to go, and there was something about it that just like it lit like a new fire in me, and I was like, nah, man, like we're not giving up now. We're fighting. I'm just gonna do everything I can right now to fight. And so I remember like getting out of the Weaver climb. I saw Shannon too. She was looking rough. She was struggling going down into Weaver too. And I was like, okay, I'm not the only one. Like we're both struggling here, And I ran down to the aid station, the aid station, and I told them, I was like, hey, it's this time right now. Second place is behind me. I don't want him to catch me. When I come back around, y'all got to tell me how far the gap is, because I don't want him passing me in the last 3 miles on the road. Like that would suck so bad. I like worked so hard, and and so they're like, okay. I left there and just hit the loop. And at this point, like from Weaver, from Stanley, I was down to where like I couldn't stomach hardly anything. So I had like a couple gels, a little bit of water, and I think it was warming up a bit, and I was dehydrating and not realizing how bad it was. And then once I started pushing myself harder, like on the loop, I was like falling apart really bad, and I was trying to push through it, and I was like panting, like breathing hard, and like grunting and like making all kind of noises and stuff like that. And I was passing all these people, and like I passed this group of like girls who were like in their bridal like hangout thing or whatever, and they were like, "Are you doing like one of those ultra things?" And they're like, "I follow this guy on TikTok," and I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, I'm at 100 miles right now, and like I was feeling so cool. and then the girl was like, "Rock in, bro, you got this." And I'm like, "What?" Like, it was funny, but I passed them, and I was still moving like intentionally, like not fast, but like I was moving well for how bad I was feeling. To get to, like basically get to where I'm like the last mile of the loop. I passed some hikers, this older couple, and the guy was like, "Hey man, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I was just like breathing really hard, and I know I didn't look okay, but he's like, "Yeah, you don't look okay." And I'm like, "All right, whatever." And I just kept going, and then it wasn't, but like maybe a couple minutes later, I was climbing up out, exposed in the heat, feeling like I was just like could not catch my breath for anything. And I like bent over on my poles and was trying to catch my breath. And I just got worse. Like you know how it is like when you stop after like pushing yourself and like you get that rush of like blood flow and everything. And I felt dizzy and I was like, oh man, like I got to sit down right now or I'm gonna like pass out. And so I sat down on the trail and it got, like just was worse and worse everything I was doing. And I'm like, oh man, like what's happening right now? Like this is not good. This is not good. And then three hiker guys came along, three other guys, and immediately like saw me sitting down there, like and like jumped into action, like were like giving me water. And I was pouring water on my head and trying to like catch my breath. And I think I was in some kind of like nervous system stress state or something, because even after sitting there for 20 minutes, I was still breathing like really hard, and my heart rate was like under 100. And so there was something that was like weird that was happening, and I don't know if it was like hydration related or just my body just being like exasperated or whatever. And I just pushed like to the edge just a little bit too much. But I mean, in one sense, like I think if I'm really brutally honest with myself, I think I could have gotten up and I could have like continued to walk, and it would have been really hard. And I think that because it was a new level of struggle and like physical shutdown that I've never experienced and I couldn't regulate myself, I think I was terrified. And I like even had the thought right before I sat down was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it back to the aid station right now. Like there's something that's like not good in my body right now. And I like it was the first time I've ever been like afraid, you know, that my body was actually going to fail me. And so yeah, those guys happened to just like all three of them were MDs, and so they're like, yeah, we're doctors, and I'm like, huh, that's convenient, yeah. And then somebody else like apparently reported to the aid station that the guy collapsed out there. They're like, the guy collapsed out there, and so they called EMS. They came out there. Next thing you know, I mean, I've been sitting there for a few minutes trying to get myself together. Next thing you know, like EMS is there. They had told Sarah and my crew that I collapsed. And so they were like panicking and like coming out there with ice and stuff like that. I was like, I'm fine, guys. Like, I was like, I'm just embarrassed. I just need a second. Like, I'm fine. Just like, you know, but like this is, you know, I felt like it was like over dramatic, but I think it really was pretty bad. And I was being stubborn and like not letting them help me. I had to stay at the aid station and like sign a waiver saying that I was refusing to go to the hospital with them and that kind of thing. And I was like, well, I think at that point I was really mad at the whole thing for a little bit, and I was just frustrated that like I was so close to the aid station, and that just was not even a category for me happening. And I was like, honestly, I didn't come here to freaking death march the finish and like have like a complete meltdown right here at the very end. And I was just really, I think I was just frustrated about that and the way that the whole thing happened. And I was like, okay, so yeah, I mean, I was sitting at the aid station. I'm like, I could just walk it in right now. And I think I was like second, third place by that point. It had been like an hour and a half, I think, before I stopped my watch. So somewhere within that time frame. And I was like, I could just walk it in and like get a finish right now, and I'd still probably finish under 30 hours or whatever. But I kind of just don't even care anymore. Like that's not meaningful for me. And in the moment, I don't think I was thinking clearly. Like I think if I could go back, I would do it just for the sake of honor and because my crew was there and like you know just to hold myself to that standard or whatever. But at the same time, I mean I don't know, like my body was like not wanting to go there, you know. So
Yep.
I don't know what to make of it still. This is a brand new thing for me, and I've been trying to figure out like what went wrong. you know?
Well, it brings whole new meaning to emptying the well.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were sitting there and you were breathing hard, did you feel like you could even walk or run, or was you just like kind of panicked because you've never been in that state before?
That's a good question. I think that there's like a sort of tension in me of like, it felt like I couldn't in one sense, you know what I mean? But it's like how much of that was mental, how much of that was just my fear in that moment, and then how much of it was my body actually not being able. And I don't know, man. Like I'm not like beating myself up about it or something like that. But I think I'm also I think it's actually like encouraging for me personally to not do the easy out of just being like, well, there was no way that I could have done it, you know, or gone further. And it's like, no, like if that's true, then that kind of sucks, you know, in one sense. Like I always want to think that there is more possible and that the the sort of story that we're telling ourselves and the ways that we're like perceiving reality like does affect our bodies even, you know, in some ways. Like could I have taken in some salt, some carbs, like taking a gel, taking some salt, drank some water, like calm my breathing down, like force myself to like slow my breathing down, and spent like, you know, 10 minutes getting myself together. Like I was only half a mile from the aid station. If I would have just made it to the aid station, sat down, did those things, I could have just gotten up and walked to the finish line and still won, you know? And it's like one of those things where you start getting into these, like, I think there's something beautiful and like devastating about ultra running where the beauty of it is that you kind of operate in this sort of tension of ambiguity of like, could I have gone more? Could I have done better? Like, I don't know. Like, I think I got the most out of myself, but like maybe I didn't, you know? And like, I think living in that tension is like a place of exploration for me where I'm not like sitting on that as like a condemnation or like something that like gives me shame like it might have used to where I'm like, oh, like I'm embarrassed, like I could have done better and I gave up. Like I did like when I DNF'd the first time, I feel like I had a lot of shame around it. And now I'm like, no, like this is epic. This is like this epic blow up, and like maybe mentally, like my mental game just wasn't there totally. And like I can in the future, maybe I could choose like to have courage in the face of that kind of fear and feeling like I can't go any further. And maybe it would be like different, you know? And that's kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of cool to me.
Well, and I'll say this, like when you say the word easy out and you ran 100 miles,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody here thinks you took an easy out. Easy out is like, I'm 30 miles in. I don't feel good. I'm not going to run the rest of this, or 50 miles. But
Yep.
you ran 100 miles. So there is no, that is
Yeah.
that is not even like easy out doesn't even qualify for this. If anything, you have the most epic DNF in history that I'm aware of. Cause like, I mean,
Yeah.
respectfully so, like I do think there's something to be said about someone who refuses to try to be passed at the end, you know, and there's something, you know, if you've ever led a race, there is truly something fun about being chased,
Yeah.
Hmm.
about being the person that people are in the pursuit of. And when you have that, you know, when you have that in your sight and you're the person that they're trying to chase down, there's some beauty into that because like you're pushing yourself and you're pushing others and man, you just pushed yourself into a whole new state. You know, I mean that like that's
Yeah.
kind of beautiful in a way. Did you make the right decision? Could you have finished? Who knows? Who cares?
Yeah.
You made the decision that you're still here and you're sitting in a podcast with us. You know, like that's what
Yeah.
matters. Like we never really know what the right decision is. We just have to make the best decision that we can in the moment that we are. And unfortunately, when you're 100 miles into an ultra, math doesn't work, nor does your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly too, I mean like even just hearing you like talk about that, like I was living in the tension of, yeah, I'm winning, and I have a level of confidence because I've won before, to where, I believe that I can win. But then there's also that voice in me that's absolutely there. It's like, you can't do this, and you're gonna fail, and like, you don't have what it takes, and like, that self-doubt, like, all the thoughts are absolutely just in my mind. And I think some of it, like, I think some people think that what it means to have like toughness and courage and like a winning spirit is to never have those kind of thoughts. And I've found that it's just a lot more helpful and reasonable just to be like, no, you just see those thoughts and you're just like, okay, those are just thoughts. I'm just having self doubt right now. It means nothing. Keep moving. You don't have to like listen to the thoughts. And
Absolutely.
so I mean, that's there for sure.
Well, and well said. I mean, we all have those thoughts, and some
Absolutely.
people, some people will deny that.
Yeah.
And the people that listen to Goggins or whoever, it's like you got to be tough. Well, I mean, there is a level of toughness, but there's also a level of like we all have a little self doubt in us, and that's not a bad thing. To have a little fear, I mean, you need it sometimes to keep yourself healthy and keep yourself safe. So there's nothing wrong with that, but it's also a fine line of fear and hurting yourself, and that's where sometimes it's hard to gauge, because we all want to never feel like we took the easy way out. But to be honest, the only person that really knows that is you, and sometimes you don't even know the answer. So who can truly judge anybody's decision on when they drop from an ultra, because they don't know what you felt like and what you were going through. And I mean, for you though, you ran 100 miles. I don't think anyone's ever going to question that. The only thing that I could see is when I saw your Strava and it said Cruel Jewel 100 DNF, and I saw you 102 or 103 miles. I was like,
Yeah.
no, because like I said, I watched you all day and all night, and it was just like, you were just a machine. I mean, you were giving it everything you had, and there's something beautiful about trying to leave it all out there. And I love people that run like that, because you're either going to do something really great, or you may not finish, and that's just kind of the reality of it when you run like that. But also, if you don't do that, how do you ever know what you're capable of? So
Yep.
sometimes it's really good to just
Show
send
up
it,
or blow up.
and see what you can do. And I respect that.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
So are you going to do Cruel Jewel 2026?
Sean wants me to. He is like, hey, we're here next year. I could tell he was like invested at the end. Like, we talked for a while because I hung out afterwards and like slept in the camp and stuff and was just chilling. And he was like really trying to encourage me, and and everything. And so they both, Sean and Sarah saw me, the race directors saw me both years just have these like horrible finishes. And but yeah, I mean, I would go back and do it again. And it's weird how there's that weird like spell that a race like that can cast on you. And I don't know. Like, I want to go back and try to conquer it? Yeah, but I don't know if I will, because there's just so many other races that, like, I want to do Hellbender, and I have no idea what next year is going to be like. At this point with life and everything. So, but I would. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's somewhere in your future. It may not be next year,
Yeah.
but definitely. And I see
Yeah.
you're already signed up for Run Rabbit Run 100 miles in
Yeah.
Colorado, so that'll be a fun race.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for that. It's a little nerve wracking. I'm not going to be able to acclimate.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, so you're gonna go right up the day before the race and do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's if you can't acclimate, that's the best option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, congratulations on your last couple of finishes. We kind of skipped over those just in the sake of time, trying to get through the podcast. But Mount Chiaha 50K early February, you won it. Georgia Death Race, we followed along on that one. That was a really fun one to watch. We actually had Alec Klein on, a month or so ago, and he was talking. But we were following you both through the race. Epic race to watch. Just you top 3 or 4 guys battling it out was really fun.
Totally.
But you definitely emptied the tank in that race as well.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
So Kyle, we'll switch over now and start some questions. But I want to ask you the very first question we ask every listener on this podcast, and it is why. When your butt cheeks are chafed so bad that you literally have to hold them apart for miles, or you've emptied the tank at 102 miles and you're sitting there almost delusional, wondering if you're okay. Why do that to yourself? Why do you do this? Why do you run?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's levels of sort of whys that I have, and depending on the day, I'm driven by different things, and I just kind of like whatever's driving me. Like I love competition, stuff like that, and just performance and whatnot. But I think the deeper why for me is I think that there's something valuable about putting myself in the position of being compromised, where I'm being forced to face something hard, and there's no easy out, and I have to face it, and work through it. And it's like the crucible kind of experience. And I think there's a sense of the spirit of our age that is always pursuing the things that are more comfortable, thinking that that's going to be the thing that makes my life meaningful and makes me happy and stuff. I just don't think that's true. I think doing things that are intentionally uncomfortable are better for us, and we're better for it. And so doing the scary thing, that's how you build character, become like a better person. And I'm a Christian, so that plays into that as well. So there's like different levels. But yeah, I think it's really meaningful, to do this. It's not just like a game or like a sport, but it's something that's happening out there, facing yourself, and everybody has it, like from first place to last place. Everybody's they're having their own battle, their own journey, their own struggle, facing their own demons, kind of thing. I think there's something really special about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100% agree. All right, Mr. Williams. And good answer, Kyle. I love that.
We got a few listener questions here. The first one is, how did you manage the heat at Cruel Jewel so well?
Yeah, I'm in Florida. People are like, you're automatically going to be better at heat. But that's actually not true. I historically have not done well with heat at all. I'm a heavy sweater. I'm 180 pounds, give or take. And so I'm hot, like very easily. I've done more intentional heat training in this season than I ever have. Going to the sauna at the gym, and that's been helpful. And then running in the heat a little bit. But yeah, so I did some intentional heat training, and then during the actual race, I iced down, and I kept myself really, really honest pacing wise from the start of the race. Even though it seemed like I was like sending it, I was very much like holding back from sending it like I felt like I wanted to and I could. And so like I was taking it easy. I let guys go out in front of me, and I didn't take the lead until the 50K ish mark, or maybe a little bit before that. But yeah, just icing down, taking my time, making sure I was hydrated, like making sure that I was checking all the boxes. I just knew that it was going to be a problem, and just not playing fast and loose with that. I think it helped me, uh, and so I mean, I felt it. It was hard. My hydration got messed up. Yeah, I mean, I somehow I was able to survive it.
Yeah.
No, you managed it well. You looked good there. Obviously, might not have managed your hydration so well later on in the race.
Yeah, at the end.
But you managed it well that first 20 hours or so.
Did you use like bandanas or ice packs or anything to go with you while you're out there, or do you just do it while you're at the aid station?
Yeah, all right. This is actually kind of a funny story. I had a ice bandana that a friend gave me like the day before. I've never used one before, and I didn't end up using it. But I was putting ice in my hat, and then and that was good. And then my pack, Ryan was like loading my pack up with ice in the back, in the back pocket, and so I that was helpful as well. But what's funny is like, so I'm running down the road after Stanley at the very beginning, and I felt the water dripping down my back, and I was like, man, that's good. That's that ice melting on me. And it's like that fresh water. My hands are a little sticky, so I was sticking my hands back there and like wiping my hands off in the water and everything, and like man, this is good. Like I really like this whole thing. Well, then I realized I go to grab my bottle in my back. I had a third bottle in my back pocket, and it's empty. And I realized that it had been leaking out, and it had like pretty strong drink mix in it. And what I was wiping my hands in was literally drink mix, and it was dripping down, like covering my whole entire backside with freaking like sticky drink mix. And so the entire race, I had half tights on, were glued to me. My like backside was absolutely disgusting, and like it was the most uncomfortable thing in the world. Like I didn't pull my phone out the race the entire time because I couldn't, because it was glued to me in the back. So here I am. I wanted to sit down in the water and just like wash myself off like toward the end, but I was so broken toward the end I couldn't even bend down to like wash my hands in the creek. And so yeah, I ran sticky the entire race from that.
Man,
so sorry to rabbit trail, but yeah,
that's bad.
Well, at least that didn't lead to any shaping issues.
No, he couldn't move. Everything was stuck.
Just kind of glued in.
Yeah, it's glued in. The bed cheeks were glued apart from each other.
All right. The next question is, you mentioned living in Florida. How do you do your vert training while you choose all these races that have so much vert?
Yeah. I hack it together with a couple different things. We've got some hills. I'm luckily, like, Tallahassee's better than most Florida. We have a few hills here that are like, I can do repeats on a hill that is 10% grade and is like 80 feet up. And I'll go up and down it sometimes and just do hill repeats like that. And then about an hour west of here is this park called Torreya State Park, and there's some hills that are a little bit steeper than that get up. Like there's a few climbs that I'll do repeats on that are like 20-30%, and I'll just go up and down them. And I've never known anybody else that has done as many hill repeats as I do. If you look at my Strava, like I actually get a decent amount of vert doing that. It's super obnoxious, and I literally just zone out and put on like podcasts or music and just go up and down. And I'm like, I'm bored with just running the trails anyway sometimes. So for me, just going up and down and like looking at my vert numbers is fine. And then hacking it together, like I'll get on the treadmill up to 15%, like run hikes. And then this season, I actually did something new. I got on the stair climber again, and I had stopped doing that over the years. And but the reason I got back on it was I was like curious if I was to skip a step on it and take a bigger step, if that would be like helpful for me just to get my like my glutes and everything like a lot stronger for like bigger steps for steeper stuff. And I actually think it really did get my muscles a lot stronger doing that. And so I spent like a little bit of time doing that, like maybe once or twice a week for like 20-30 minutes tops. So, and then besides that, like I've gotten up a few times into some real vert areas. Like I'll normally do training camps and stuff like that about a month out from a race to actually get like one of the things. The way I hack it together is like I break it down on what are the different needs that I have, the aerobic needs, and then the actual mechanical needs of like my muscles and stuff like that to climb. And as long as I'm sort of getting enough of that, then I'm gonna be fine. And so like the big thing with some of that is I wanted to make sure I had literally just a couple sessions of really hard, fast downhill running to get my quads ready, you know. And so even at GDR, I was sending it at GDR on the downhills, no quad blow up, you know. Like they were sore, but I still was able to run, you know, at the end. So, you know, it's wild how you can't do enough and be okay, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people do way too much, and by the time they make it to the race, they're cooked.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is, do you have any advice for the slower runners?
I mean, it depends. I would just say like what is the goal that you're wanting to chase after? You want to do performance goals and stuff like that, and you're trying to get the most out of yourself. You just got to find the principles of um, what anybody is doing, and you just have to apply it appropriately to yourself. You know, so you know, do you need to feel more? Do you need to work on speed stuff? Everybody needs to work on speed stuff at times. Like um, work on the stuff that's going to help you figure out what the weakness is that's holding you back, because sometimes there's low hanging fruit there, and just chip away at it. Just do all the different, check all the boxes, chip away at it. Grow, get a coach. I do coaching now. I find that the more I learn about it, the more I'm like you just said, you don't have to spend that much time doing some things, and then some things you got to spend a lot of time on, you know, and figuring out what that is. So, gosh, I mean, there's so many factors that could play into the answer to that. But yeah, I mean, if it's a performance type goal that somebody who is mid pack, back of the pack, yeah, all the same things apply, you know.
Yep. The last listener question we have here ask, does he need his wife to pace him the last 10 miles of every race from now on?
It's a setup.
And
Yeah. Listen, if somebody's asking, yeah, if somebody's asking if my wife needs to do something to help me, obviously yes. And I DNF'd, and who knows if I would have DNF'd if she would have been there. She wasn't there, you know? And so I obviously can't do it without her, you know?
Is she
That's
normally at
am
your?
I on record saying that?
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Is she normally at your races?
Yeah, yeah. So we actually were like kind of going back and forth. I told her, I was like, hey, you don't need to come chase me around. You're not gonna sleep. She's gonna be anxiously trying to like crew me and being up all night and stuff. I'm like, she had been, you know, busy with stuff, and I'm like, just stay home. It's fine. Like I can go solo and be fine. I gave some reasons for that or whatever. And then Ryan kind of jumped in last minute. I was like, I want to crew you, and so I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, my wife is like super, super sweet, and we're close. We do a lot of things together, just about everything. And so she doesn't like all the crazy running stuff, but she's supportive because she loves me. So, and she's a great crew person.
Well,
Well, that goes a long way. So sounds like you
it
need to sweet talk her to be at your next one and not.
it sounds like
Yeah,
she's volunteering for the last 10 miles of every.
that's right. Yeah.
That is all of the listener questions we have. Let's see. We got a few other questions that we normally ask everybody. What has been your favorite low key race that you've done that most people don't know about?
You know, I don't know if it's a low key race, but one of my favorite races that I think I've done is the Looking Glass 100. So it's
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's low key, I guess, in the grand scheme, being in the southeast, you know, but it's kind of a bigger, you know, Brandon and Tonawanda, or however you say it. He does great races. It was a beautiful. We had an alternate course last year, but it was a wonderful race. The experience there was just so much fun, so beautiful, really fun running on the course, and just challenging enough to make it really hard. But
That course does look very
Yep,
pretty.
It does look pretty. Yeah. I think I've looked at it one time.
Well,
I would definitely recommend
we're gonna
it.
have to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Kyle recommends it. We gotta put it on the list.
All right. The next question I have: what kind of shoes and packs do you normally wear during these events?
Yeah. So I'm like a gear nerd, and I've literally tried like almost every shoe, to my shame and embarrassment here. But for GDR and for Cruel Jewel, I wore the Prodigio Pros, Las Sportivas. Dude, for like how high the stack is on them, I really like them, and I'm finding them to be perfectly 100-mile capable for me, and then able to do like technical terrain really well without being like some of the big clunky carbon plated shoes that you break your ankles in, because I've run in those too. And yeah, like maybe my favorite shoe ever. So those have been kind of a cool thing. And then I've been wearing Solomon packs, since I can remember. I think I got the latest version of the Advanced Skin 5, and I've used the different iterations of that over the years, and they just work. I don't worry about it. I don't have issues with them. I like the way that all the pockets are. It holds plenty of stuff, and they're just comfortable. So I'd wear a pack just in general. Like some people don't like wearing packs and they won't wear them because they have to, but I actually like wearing it.
Let's see. Did you have a sodium hydration plan before the race?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, um, I had a number of different things mixed into my drink mix. And shout out to Hyperlight Nutrition. They're friends and a great brand startup brand that's now getting a lot bigger. And they've got some really good, drink mix that's got like a bunch of carbs and a bunch of salt in it. And so that's been really good. And then I also had some extra electrolyte, different things with me. I have a few different things that I use, and just trying to get like I'm pretty salty, so I still think I even undersalted some. But yeah, I mean I carry quite a few things with me. Shout out to Hyperlight. They're a great brand that's up and coming in the nutrition space, where they have like a lot of simple ingredients, or not a lot of not a lot of ingredients, but just a simple few things that are like the essentials and a good combination. I've really enjoyed their stuff. The taste profile of their drink mix is like a neutral taste, and so it doesn't make you get the flavor fatigue as bad. And so I'm carrying. I have one or two bottles of mix, and I always keep one bottle of just water, and I always will like rinse my mouth out, and like cleanse the palate, after everything I put in my. So yeah, I mean I'll have some gels and stuff like that. I'll have the drink mix with carbs and a good bit of electrolytes in it, and then I also carried like some tablets and whatnot of electrolytes as extras that are pretty strong. Because I'm using like at least 1,000+ milligrams of sodium per liter of water. Um, for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried the Hyperlight in a few different races, and it's done well.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Last one here. We got a aid station question. At an aid station, would you rather have a sweet or a salty snack?
I'm a sweet person, so I would have a sweet thing, even like later in a race, just depending on what's there and how I feel. But I usually will err on the side of getting something salty just to contrast. So I think I didn't have much of solid food during Cruel Jewel, but I think one of my goals was to try to eat solid food. And at Wolf Creek, I had a quesadilla with bacon in it. I forced that down, and it was pretty good. And so that's probably the highlight aid station item I had.
Yeah, that makes you feel good when you can actually get down solid food in the end. You're like,
oh yeah,
I did it, and I didn't throw up.
Yeah,
you're right.
Well, Kyle, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah. So, well, I'm curious, like, what next for you guys? Where am I going to see you again? Yeah.
I've got Damn Yeti 50 in not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. And then followed up behind that, we both have Mid-State Mile, which is the last man standing in Franklin, Tennessee. So we're both doing that one. I'll be doing Yeti 100 and No Business 100. And what else you got?
Nice. I got Three Sisters next weekend. Yeah, next weekend. And then, or 2 weeks from now. And then I've got one track race that I'm really not looking forward to, but I got to do it for a series. And then a bunch of KTC trail races. And then I have not got my fall racing planned out. So we'll see.
Will we see you at any of those events?
I was not planning on going to any of those, but I also don't know what I'm going to do after Run Rabbit this year, or what I'll do next spring. I don't plan ahead very well either, so we need to stay in touch and link up again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we're usually, I try to run different races every year, so it's always fun. And I'm not the same. There's a couple of races every year I like to try to do here and there, but for the most part, I try to explore new ones every year. You know, I always enjoy that. And I think at some point it's time to do another 200 or 300 miler. So.
I think next year I'm definitely going to do more trail 100s. So they're on my list.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Well, Kyle, man, it's been truly an honor to hear your story. When I saw you at Cruel Jewel, and I knew I knew me and Matt had an opening this weekend. I was like, I got to try to get him on here. If not, it's going to be a month from now. So, and I wanted it like while you were fresh, because it's always better when you can tell the story when it's fresh on your mind. So thank you for coming on here on short notice. And, luckily we had someone cancel and move around, so it worked out really well. So thank you for sharing.
No, thank you guys, man. Like, you guys do a great work, and I love everything. Like, now that just seeing you at the race and all the cool stuff y'all are doing with the podcast and everything else, man, it's really exciting. This has been fun too. Great conversation. You guys are great conversationalists, and it's fun, man. This is part of what makes it ultra running so cool,
Yeah, absolutely, man. There are so many good people that run ultras, and especially in the East. That's the biggest thing, is trying to bring more attention to some of the fabulous runners and even the people in this community on the East Coast. And that's kind of why we started this podcast in the beginning, was we are East Coast Adventures, and we put on events, but we were more about, we want to learn about runners and other race directors. So we're also starting to mix in, like last week we had Chris Stengel on from Run Fluent in Florida. He come down here.
I know Chris.
We ran a trail with him this past weekend. He ran part of our course because he signed up for the Cherokee. So he's going to come out and run that one in July. So we got to spend some time with him, but it's been really fun, man, getting to learn, just like you, getting to learn more about you, learn your story. And just see how cool people are. That's the funnest part, is getting to share everybody's story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Well, shoot, I'm going to come do one of y'all's races then.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Please come join us. Come run with Chris if you want.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, man, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on here, and we wish you the best, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. See ya.
Thank you.